humans are in the center of the attacks. So the attackers no longer attack machines, devices, network. It's boring. Attackers attack people because people are the easiest way in.
But a little background on me. I first came to actually the Modern CTO Podcast. I developed a relationship with Joel when I was the CTO at Alteryx. I'm not sure if you've heard of Alteryx. It's an analytics tooling company. So I've got, an inch level of knowledge versus probably your vast AI knowledge. Alteryx developed analytical tooling for the non-technical user. So you could go do things like develop predictive analytic workflows in a very kind of what you see is what you get WYSIWYG type fashion. You can do data automation if I had any kind of analytics automation work that I had to do. So that's where I got introduced into Joel and the Modern CTO Podcast. Was on this, I think, a couple times, and then happened to spend some time with Joel when he was passing through Denver, and he offered, hey, why don't you come on and host it? We had such a good time when you were on the call. Why don't you switch seats with me and spend some time talking. So when I got a look at the folks that potentially to talk to, your name was on the list, your company was on the list. I said, Michal's the guy that I want to talk to. His background is fascinating.
Very good. Exactly.
Yeah, so most of my background's in strategy. That was my job at Alteryx, really to scale out the organization, develop the technical strategy. I know you spent a lot of time doing that. Like I said, your background is pretty amazing. So can you give us a little bit of a brief walkthrough about you and kind of your journey to where you're at today?
Yeah, definitely. I'm a kind of hardcore AI scientist guy. And, I've been working on AI since I finished my PhD in the 90s. And at the time, I kind of learned from my professors in Edinburgh that AI is a great tool, but AI has got the limits. AI will never drive a car. AI will never win in golf. AI will never win in poker. So I'm kind of seeing as the time goes how much I learned while kind of doing AI as opposed to while I was studying AI, and this is pretty fascinating. So getting a degree is not enough. You kind of really need to practice AI to kind of be valuable to business and to companies. So because of my passion for AI and my passion for applications, while kind of doing research and building systems and building teams, I was also attracted by figuring out how what I do can really help people, right? So as scientists, in academia, we are driven by citations and publications, which kind of drives me. I really like kind of other fellow scientists to read my papers. But on the other hand, I'm not driven by the impact that is on society, on people, on industry, on business, on the way how we live, on the way how our life is more comfortable, on the way how our life is faster in a good way, about how our life is more secure and safe. That's why I was kind of building startup companies with my PhD students and fellow researchers. I built a couple. I was lucky to exit a few. The most interesting gig was when we built one of the first companies in true AI ML space in cybersecurity in 2008. It was at a time where actually nobody believed that this is at all possible. People thought that this is like really smoking mirrors. That AI and cybersec, that doesn't work at all with me. These days, it's very difficult to do any business if you don't have an AI sticker inside your whatever you do. So we thought that the way how AI scientists are processing images can be very similar to the way how we can process network traffic. And we have been using ensemble-based machine learning in order to be able to detect anomalies, the net flow, and the net flow traffic on the internet. And through detecting anomalies, we were pointing to APTs, advanced persistent threats. And this kind of led us to building a great product and getting a good customer base, and in the end, exiting to Cisco. So Cisco acquired my business, and I was running AI for cybersec in Cisco for several years. And then I came back to the university. I've started a few other smaller companies. I've exited a few more. Then I did VC, and I felt that that's comfortable life. I can do part-time VC, part-time being at the university. When Andre, at the time CTO of Avast, approached me, and he kind of made me to believe that this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to take the advantage of my AI experience and passion for building systems, and to help not enterprises, but to help consumers, like people who are living digital lives, to help them to solve their problems with security, privacy, freedom in the future. And he just got me excited, and I joined the company. He became the CEO, and we worked together since.
Yeah, I saw your background. You've started a variety of different companies. Like I think I saw an avionics company. You did some AI with Aviation. Obviously, there was a security piece. Like your applied AI was all over the place. It's fascinating. Most people will find an industry niche and pretty much stay in that in logical adjacencies. But it looked like you kind of went large left hand and right hand turns into different spaces, which is fascinating.
Yeah, so like the aviation business, it was exciting. It's the company called Agentfly. I've exited this already, but it was it still is a startup company of a reasonable size now that is solving a problem how to model complex systems in avionics. Right? We were solving the problem how to get rid of air traffic controllers. If you look into the kind of aviation business, there are people who are running landing and takeoff. It looks stupid, right? This is like fully automatable process that can be automated and would always outperform people. But the problem that we had at the time was how to bring technology there, how to test and experiment. You just cannot kind of bring a new algorithm and then count a number of airplanes that crash, right?
Yes.
and then go and debug, right? So
right.
That's not the way how you would innovate in this space. So that's why we've built a complex multi-agent technology that was used to be able to model and simulate with high precision different scenarios of use of a technology in the air traffic control problem. And today, FAA is the biggest customer of Agentfly Technologies and is using the technology for testing and simulating different scenarios of bringing in new tech, which is into the problem, which is still heavily man controlled and man involved. It was exciting, right?
Yeah, it's fascinating. I know that's not what you're focused on now. I was, one thing that I saw, I was interested in how you moved to Avast, given you seem to have a pretty good rhythm with the academic work you're doing, the VC work you were doing. What really compelled you to move to Avast? I know you introduced a little bit of that, but were they approaching the connection between AI and cybersecurity in a very different way that you said, hey, that's a unique approach and something I'm excited about strategically, and that's what got you to kind of look at that opportunity and jump at it? Was there something specific that was different about them than, I'm sure you got approached by a ton of different companies to do some similar roles, given your background is so applicable and so needed in the cybersecurity space. How was this the right path for you?
So I give you kind of two pieces of answers that are different but related. So the reason what got me excited and the reasons that make me excited currently, right? So when Andre offered me the job, I was excited by the set of values. I'm actually big on citizens' freedoms and liberties. And me kind of being kind of brought up in the East Bloc of Europe when the Iron Curtain would fall apart when I was 18, kind of my sympathy with people who are not free, who are manipulated, influenced, who cannot use, who don't have any free access to information. It's very exciting, And I also help philanthropies in this space, and I'm really passionate about people's freedoms and liberties. And it was the first time in my life where I got an opportunity to marry my professional experience and my knowledge and skills with a set of values that I was supporting in my free time, right? And that was this exciting piece. I can use AI not to help big companies to automate, to make more money. I can use AI to protect people against more and more sophisticated threats on the internet, against big giants on the internet, against manipulation. And this set of values and the opportunity to kind of contribute to digital freedom of the ordinary internet users, that was the exciting piece. So this is what excited me when Andre gave me this opportunity, and it continues to excite me now. There is additional differentiator. I had the opportunity in my life to work with cybersecurity specialists and with AI researchers and scientists. You cannot imagine other two dissimilar technical communities, right? There is a big gap between these two super intelligent, sophisticated, impactful communities. And like with Cisco, when I was working with Cisco, I had hard times really to bring those groups together, to respect each other, to share knowledge, share experience, share passion. In Avast, it's working. It's the first time in my life when I see these two communities being excited one about the other and working shoulder by shoulder. I actually think that by me being able to really excite those two camps to share objectives, it makes actually Avast a unique, cybersecurity place. I'm not seeing such a camaraderie and joint or shared objectives in other cybersecurity firms. And this actually makes me excited. The fact that there is a shared workplace where these two gangs like to work together.
Yeah, let's talk to both of those. Let's start with the latter since you just talked to it. I've run InfoSec in my past. I kind of know that cybersecurity persona a little bit. And Alteryx was an analytics company. We had data scientists and kind of that persona represented in terms of creating new predictive analytic models, et cetera. So I'm sympathetic to the difference in styles with those two. How do you take two very different kind of wired set of engineers, we'll use that generic term, and provide kind of shared vision, shared strategy that both can be like, okay, I get that. That's not specific to either side. That's shared vision, it's shared direction, it's shared strategy. How do you navigate that, given that they are very different, resource sets, for lack of a better term, with very different motivations, very different experiences? Is it communication style? Is it finding a compromise in messaging and goaling? Talk through how you motivate both sides at the same time with the same message.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great question. So it is mainly on being able to understand what are the technical problems that would be the best place in the middle, right? To be able to figure out what the problems will be, those that will be exciting for both camps. And I'll get to this. But before I list some of those problems, I'll tell you that the hardest part for me was to make the AI scientists to really appreciate the subject matter expertise of the InfoSec people. AI scientists are more about data, so they are not so excited about people. You give me your data, I train your model, and that's I would say that your AI people are very transactional when it comes to kind of providing value to users, to customers, and to be able to change this mindset and to figure out that it's not data, it's this great skill that the InfoSec people have, which has been trained for years and years and years, that they need to be able to take advantage of and understand and to turn them into exciting customers. Because without doing that, the AI research doesn't have an impact in this problem, right? So that they would still stay swimming on kind of more abstract problems, kind of demonstrating what can be done, but not providing value to the InfoSec people. So it was actually one of the kind of change of the mindset of the AI people. The change of the mindset when it came to the InfoSec people was the scale. In Avast, we see how many attacks happen, right? We see, how many viruses we catch every single day, and how much does it grow? There's a massive growth of the infection on the internet, and the smart InfoSec people started to realize it's not scalable. It doesn't scale. So they started to really appreciate the automation, better tools, kind of pushing more decision makings to the algorithms. As soon as they they keep the control, right? So you kind of need to give them the opportunity to kind of retain a lot of control. When I was trying to figure out what is the problem that would make both parties excited, it's AI explainability. AI explainability is the problem, which is exactly in between of these two camps, right? Because for AI scientists, irrespective of the domain, explainability of machine learning models, it's an exciting topic. From healthcare to autonomous driving, right? So people like it. If you provide good explainers on your detectors and classifiers that would kind of be supplied together with the technology to the InfoSec people, they get more excited. They trust AI more. They see better relevance. And through explainability, the InfoSec people started to see the value. Kind of my InfoSec people are writing Yara rules. We use Yara rules as a language to represent rules that we deploy on the endpoint through which we are protecting against malware, right? So now the AI people are building detectors and classifiers, and they represent the result in the same language, in the Yara rules. So for me, it was super important to come up with a representation that would be similarly accessible to the InfoSec people as much as for the algorithms that are producing classification and anomaly detection. Does it make sense?
Totally. I on a related point, I was on a podcast a while back, and that was the topic they wanted to get into most, was kind of the explainability side of it. When you look at, your ensemble-based models or your deep, neural network models, the explainability side, whether it's security or whether you're making an underwriting decision on a loan candidate, like that's a really important part kind of for the morality and the ethical side of analytics. So I can only guess how pessimistic a cybersecurity expert is in terms of specific outcomes of a machine learning model if they can't understand it, right? That by nature that's how they are. So I can only understand to a great extent that's probably a huge challenge for them, and that explainability part is really valuable for them. It lets them participate more on the AI side than they probably could have before, and you're kind of beginning to bridge the skills gap between the two parties. You're not going to, I'm guessing, a guy like you can't go out and hire, 5 new data scientists who have deep understanding of cybersecurity. That's a brand new skill set. If it was, hey, I'm a data scientist who spends time in fraud detection, financial services, there's probably, relative to cybersecurity, there's probably plenty of those. But in the cybersecurity space, there's probably 0 of those. So you're developing a very specific data scientist skill set that allows them to bring context to their work, and that probably creates much greater value, to your point. So super interesting.
I would add this to Derek, kind of one more thought. Classical AI scientists are motivated by replacing people, right? So whatever people do, you train a model and you replace cognitive capability. In cybersecurity, I don't do this. I'm excited about making the cybersecurity specialists a paraprofessionals, so that with the proper use of AI, their time is 100x more impactful, right? So until this multiplier of the time of my security analyst, this is the metrics. That's what I optimize. I don't optimize how many people I can fire. I optimize the impact of the people that I have. So that's one thought. And the other thought is, the world is changing because the infection that we see is AI-based, is automated, right? We see more and more infection which is created by the algorithms, right? And we all understand that the AI constructed or AI empowered or AI based scaled attacks gonna scale like nothing. You just pay for the compute, so you can scale exponentially. If we, as the defenders, would be weak on AI based defense and would be using people for AI based attacks, we can never win. We would always lose because we cannot scale the way how the attackers are scaling. So it is super important that every cybersecurity kind of innovator or a CTO or somebody who is in charge focuses on maximizing the amount of AI, AI-based automation, machine learning, to be able to fight AI-based attacks with as much AI as possible, so that you keep human intellect and human power for the cases that are human crafted, so that you can keep attackers finding people and AI finding AI, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's spot on. That's really well articulated. It's a 1 + 1 = 3 thing with, you take the cybersecurity expert, you take the data science and the artificial intelligence, and it becomes, you give them that tooling and they can do their job exponentially better. And I love your point around, let's keep people focused on people problems and let's let the technology focus on the technology specific intrusion vectors that these entities are trying to attack people with. That makes tons of sense. So on that side, about the cyber and the AI side, what are you seeing in terms of where that industry is going, in terms of what types of malware is being developed, what type of intrusion vectors are being developed? Is there something that listeners should be aware of the podcast in terms of being thoughtful on, you talked about, hey, bring AI into how you think about, cybersecurity protections. Is there anything else in terms of new attack vectors or what have you that you think folks should be aware of that you're seeing now, given your seat?
Okay, so I do 3 things. One is we see new attack vectors constantly. We see new types of attacks. And the truth is, it's very difficult. Once you kind of get a new attack vector or a kind of new source of data that indicates to a malicious behavior, it's very difficult to kind of sit down with your people and kind of build a new classifier, new design, new feature sets, kind of do this each time again based on the new attack vectors that you see, right? So what we are trying to bring is kind of deep learning based methods, featureless machine learning methods based in hierarchical multi-instance learning, which are kind of generic enough so that can kind of easily let the classifier trained on new data that are describing the new behavior. That you kind of do not need to do this kind of laborious machine learning engineering together with these subject matter experts and craft independent classifiers. So the generality of machine learning is very important to be able to respond in a timely manner to the new infections. As far as the trends are concerned, what we see, obviously, as any other cybersecurity specialist, is that the %90 of the attacks are based on people's errors and clicking on things that they shouldn't click on, entering their private data to places that they shouldn't, right? And the capability to deceive people intellect and people attention, this is the most prevalent trend these days when it comes to new vectors. And that's why we are trying to really focus on what is more important now than was before, which is trying to understand how people are vulnerable and what makes people to click on things they shouldn't click on. And we are learning this is an AI-based problem. It really is. Because if I want to kind of write a deceptive phishing email, what I need is your inbox and good machine learning systems that would help me to create a model that would write an email that I will trust. So with more private data out, with more privacy that we disclose and share, easier is it to write good quality models that will send me an email that I will trust. So this is an kind of important attack vector, human-centric attacks, and your Avast is actually moving in this space to be more valuable to the end users. And the third trend we see is actually in the space of adversarial machine learning, right? Attackers know that we are running AI under the hood, okay? We are. So at the whole space of adversarial machine learning and adversarial AI is kind of trying to come up with samples that would go around your classifiers. What are the, what behavior I can get through the classifier? Your adversarial machine learning is computing those samples, right? This new field. People know adversarial machine learning mainly from deceiving cameras and recognizing traffic signs, right? So you can kind of change the traffic signs so that you see it differently than the algorithm. In cybersecurity, it's the same. Attackers are trying to deceive our AI by crafting sophisticated samples that will go beyond protection. What our goal is, as a AI cybersec people, we need to build algorithms that are robust against deception, robust against overtraining, robust against data poisoning, sample poisoning. This is like a problem that wasn't here before, right? Before attackers kind of couldn't care less about our algorithms. They knew their ways, right? So now with the improved quality of protection that is by big part AI driven, we are seeing attempts of the attackers to overtrain our algorithms.
Yeah, the point you make on the people dimension of this problem is really interesting. It's come from, I think you see a lot of folks in this space that are, these agencies trying to enrich information around people and build, models of vectors to get at people. I know text is something that a lot of us are really vulnerable to. We're used to dealing with the email filters, and email from in terms of protecting you against malware is fairly effective. The text side of it doesn't seem to be as effective. Folks seem to have more trust in, if I get a text message, I tend to trust the text more than I tend to trust email. So I know that's probably for you all, trying to inject something that gets in the way of the text stream of things. But I'm sure a huge challenge of you is just trying to educate humans on identifying threats, right? I mean, having run InfoSec and tried to do that within organizations before, that's a huge challenge. And folks only tend to get interested in solving it once they've been duped. Then they recognize, hey, this is a real problem. It's not somebody else is dealing with cyber issues, and not me. Once you get duped, and inevitably somebody will get you duped, you begin to recognize that's important. So, is there a way that you or the industry's working to bridge the human knowledge gap, the awareness gap? Because I will tell you, in trying to run continuous education programs within the companies I've worked for, we always seem to be hitting a wall in terms of getting folks to really value that level of training and find that it was important. It was always, pulling teeth to get folks to want to invest in understanding kind of the evolution of the cyberspace so they could protect themselves from it. And to your point, if humans click on the link, there's nothing your software can do, right? They can make poor choices. So is there stuff that you all or the industry is doing to help there outside of just trying to create better software to reduce the opportunity? Is that all you can do?
So listen, part of my job is to help to reinvent consumer cybersecurity, right? Come up with kind of big new ideas. I'm not bringing any quantum computing into this. I think it's much simpler than that. I'm trying to bring humans back in the loop. For the last 30 years, the cybersecurity and the AV industry has made this error of providing the user with, you do not need to worry security. You are protected. You don't need to worry. And it's a mistake. It's a foundational mistake. 30 years ago, 20 years ago, the industry shouldn't have done this. Because by this, the industry created low engagement products that are now difficult to sell, honestly, because they are low engagement. While cybersecurity shall be high engagement problem. we need to bring people into the loop, and we need to make them co-responsible for what is going with their privacy and security online. We do this in Avast by kind of building new technologies and new products in this space. We are experimenting with new products. We are doing user research, and we are testing technology, whether technology can provide. And one of the interesting ideas that we have is a combination of AI explainability and gamification, right? To figure out what is the best representation of the information to user, and how can you make the user engaged in trying to act on it. And the approach that we are taking is we are building a cybersecurity Fitbit, right? People wear their smartwatch, and they monitor their heart rate and their oxygen, and they, before they go to sleep, they see all their charts, how they improve their behavior, how they sleep, how they drink. People are excited, but people are not excited to understand how safe they are online, because they think they are safe because they paid somebody $10 a month, and they are covered. So we would like to build a cybersecurity Fitbit that would give everybody transparency, visibility into how they behave, whether how often they change their passwords, where do they click, what sites do they watch. There are sites that are dangerous, but still okay if you're careful, right? So if you go there, you're gonna need to be more careful than if you're gonna read your email and your Gmail, right? So this is a non-trivial concept for many people. And I think it's a duty of a cybersecurity industry to kind of come to people and to start giving them advice, giving them continuous monitoring, and try to make them to improve their cybersecurity behavior online. It's not only education, it's the technology plus education.
Yeah, that sounds like kind of the holy grail of products. If you could, get the end user involved in increasing their cybersecurity protections, I think that would be amazing. I know if you take an average sales guy who thinks that doesn't care about that space, or an average consumer who doesn't think about it, my parents, et cetera, right? They don't have any consideration for those types of things, and they have issues constantly. It seems like my father specifically always seems to have security issues with his computer, where he does, makes poor decisions. So if you can get the human side involved in some of the decision making in terms of what they select and why they should select, or why they shouldn't select something or take a specific action, I think that'll take the industry, a quantum step forward.
Yeah, I would add to this, Derek, that it's not only providing users with visibility and gamification, but it's also providing with personalized cybersecurity. We are different. We live different lives. Our lives are kind of dangerous online from different perspectives. So kind of the danger that I experience is different than my father does, and it's different than my daughter do. Daughters do, and it's because we have visibility, we understand, we can learn models of the behaviors of the users online. We should be able to provide them a custom tailored security, which is specific to each of our lives, each of our internet needs, and also we have also different attitudes to risk. Like my parents are very risk averse, right? My kids, they understand internet much better than them, and they are more risk open, right? So the personalization of cybersecurity, this is a big thing.
Yeah, 100% agree. Well, let's pivot a bit, because I want to learn more about how you do your job. So I was looking at your stock symbol, and the progress of it's been remarkable. The growth of the Avast stock. I'm sure that the organization scaling out probably looks very similar. What are some of the big challenges you're facing in terms of like the organization? We talked a little bit about bridging the gap between the data scientist side of the organization and the cyber expert side of the organization. But in terms of org design, distribution of work, making decisions on where you deploy resources, what are some of the primary challenges that you're really focused on right now?
Okay, so I would say the biggest challenge is the horizon. in my organization, there are 200 people, and each of them have got different horizon of impact and delivery. So there are people who are fighting with the attackers the minute, right? So they need to deliver now, or in a minute, or in half a day. So the horizon is imminent, immediate. There are people who are building systems for those people to be paraprofessionals. So their horizon can be a quarter, can be a year, can be 18 months. This is the horizon. And then in my organization, in the technology group, I also own innovation. People who are trying to invent new products, new services, new values to users. And again, there is a different horizon, and there is also different risk, right? So the people who are protecting our users now, there is a zero tolerance to risk. We need to deliver, we need to protect every single user on the internet. People who are innovating on a future digital freedom product portfolio that will matter in 3 years from now, they have a different horizon. And if I silo, I'm losing the opportunity. The interesting soup gets from the mixture, right? So to be able to mix the perspectives and the experience and the job description of these groups with different horizon is a huge challenge. But I believe that in this challenge, there is a value.
Do you guys have distributed teams? I know you guys have. I know you're Prague based. By the way, Alteryx had an office in Prague. It's one of the great cities in the world. For folks that haven't been there, you got to go there. It's amazing. Do you guys have offices, in other places, India, China, other markets? And if so, how do you think about distribution of work given you said everybody's got different horizons? Do you limit a location to a specific horizon? Do you have teams that span different locations who have shared horizons? How do you think about that?
So it'll be actually exciting to kind of have this discussion 2 years ago, because we will be able to speak about kind of geographies and team locations and kind of geographical strategies where you hire, where your people are. After COVID, it's all different, right? So we have learned how to work from anywhere. Our people are working from anywhere. So there are people who joined the company a year and a half ago, and they never saw each other, right? So there's a huge opportunity in this flexibility, and also kind of for some, the asynchronicity of work is actually great, kind of to be able to work in more asynchronous way. And also people hate Zooms, so that's why they try to be more rational about meetings. The face-to-face meetings have some charm, right? People kind of really like to meet each other. Once they cannot, they need to get together on the Zoom. It's much less pleasurable. It's more troublesome. People are less excited about Zooms, which in the end is driving efficiency. People meet less. People spend more time using asynchronous work tools. We use Asana to perfection. We use Jira to perfection. Right, so we have rules that if there is a meeting, there needs to be a pre-read, right? The person who is calling for a meeting, he needs to provide a pre-read material. There needs to be a written conclusion that are stored somewhere in Jira or Asana. So this pandemic thing kind of made us more responsible to the meeting times, and I actually see this as a positive effect. We in Avast have offices in tens of countries around the world, but the engineering hubs are really Prague and Brno, Czech Republic. We have people in London. There is a good engineering site in London. We have engineers and researchers in Silicon Valley, in Berkeley. We have engineering teams in Serbia and Belgrade. That's pretty much it. So we are learning that it's less about location, it's more about the time zone. So we kind of need to really figure out how to work the time zone, because the time zone is an obstacle. And kind of being sophisticated around time zone, this is a huge challenge. But we are getting where we want to be. The second huge challenge is to be able to attract good quality talent, right? The talent in our industry is a rare asset. Prices are rising, skyrocketing. The availability is dropping. I would say that the average quality of available people on the market is lowering because good people have great jobs and they are not interested to pick up a call from a recruiter. So the talent availability is a non-trivial problem. In my field, I'm betting, as being a former academics, I'm betting on university collaboration. Here in Avast, we work with UC Berkeley, we work with Stanford, we work with King's College London, UCL in London. We work with the best engineering schools, and this puts us into a great position to get to know the communities and show our logo to students and excite them about our mission. So we are very successful in being able to tap the junior talent. However, as a manager, the right mix of a junior and senior is very important. So we cannot stay only on the level of being able to attract junior talent from universities.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of companies that are trying to approach it your way. I think access to talent is a huge challenge. All the CTOs and CXOs that I talk to, they ask me two questions. One is how do you manage innovation in this distributed situation? What we found that a lot of folks in industry found is the core engineering aspect during COVID was we saw a way better productivity. But where we lost momentum was in that white space around innovation, collaboration. If you're talking about net new strategy, decisions or some, thinking through some innovative think tank type concepts, doing it through a digital medium just didn't create the same amount of energy that you had in person. So the age question I get asked is, well, how did you guys overcome that? The answer I had was, well, we kind of did it. Like we were struggling with that. And that if somebody can solve, hey, how do you bring that same kind of in-room whiteboard energy into a digital format? I think that'll bridge the gap significantly. And the other question they ask is, how are you doing on talent? Because we are struggling to find good talent, even in the distributed model. And I think the answer a lot of folks come back with, I think is similar to yours, which is it takes time to get the cycle going, but let's start engaging with university level hiring or kind of non-traditional educational fronts to kind of build from the bottom up and build that kind of growth model through the organization. But to your point, you always still have to hire a certain amount of senior resources to develop, mentor those kind of more junior resources, less experienced resources. That just takes time. So it's a little bit of a difficult challenge to overcome. I'm sure you'll get there over time.
Yeah, definitely. To the digital means for innovation and collaborative thinking, we did a good experience with Miro boards.
Yeah, we did too.
As a mechanism to work together and co-create. So, from the innovation aspect, what is difficult? In my opinion, and this is independent of pandemics, it's also independent of industries, is to bring everybody to the table, share the perspectives of people who have different burning platforms, right? Everybody is on a burning platform. Everybody is stressed and passionate and needs to deliver. But in order to be able to come up with a new product that you can sell and that users would be excited to buy or to install, you need to have different professions around the table. But in a company like Avast, where we are really passionate and fighting attackers, it's non-trivial to bring in people who are trying to cover the next quarter, people who need to deploy in 3 weeks, and people who are ideating about the products that will matter in 2 years.
Right.
Different horizons of different burning platforms. That's a challenge that we are trying to learn how to overcome.
Yeah, not surprised on that one. How about the academic side of things? Are you still finding time to engage in a lot of academic work, given everything you're doing professionally? It seems like a full-time job in itself. Where do you focus on academically now? Anything of interest there that you're looking at? That it doesn't have to be cyber related, but just in general, are you looking at anything in that space that's got you excited?
Yeah, so I'm still a professor at Czech Technical, right? So I do not teach anymore. I don't have time for this. But, I'm spending time with PhD students and using this creative environment as to get some ideas from and to provide some inspiration to, right? So I continue to be like an academic, part-time academic. And the problem that excites me when I speak with my fellow researchers and scientists is the concept of a cognitive antivirus, right? So how to transform the problem of the antivirus, cyber antivirus, to cognitive antivirus. In the past, kind of people were debating, if Elon Musk and his Neuralink will provide the brain implants, when it's going to happen, it's going to be helpful, it's going to be healthy, but also, is it a danger for cyber attacks? Can we get hacked? So don't we need a totally different level of protection on the internet if our brains get hacked? So my response to this is, this will never happen. I don't believe Elon doing that. If we were not able to lift Google Glass, which was substantially less invasive technology, I don't believe that we will get brain implants. They will never get an approval. It is unethical. And it's interesting times where kind of ethics is getting more and more important in research, science, and technology. So I think that we do not need to worry about brain implants, but we need to worry about getting hacked without brain implants, with our cell phones, with our PCs, right? So it's not difficult to make me sick through cell phone. It's not difficult to hack me so that I can make actions with unintended consequences. It's not so difficult to hack me so that I hurt myself physically or psychologically, or I will make a decision that is not good for me if somebody hacks me, right? So, and this space where protecting against phishing attacks meets misinformation and disinformation, that's super exciting. Those two problems seem to be from two different worlds: cybersecurity and media manipulation. But when I work with my research scientists at the universities, I'm learning it's just the other way around, that those two problems are so close, so similar. Clicking on a link which makes me to give out my credit card number is a similar mental cognitive attack as me choosing not to get vaccinated. It's another cognitive attack with unintended consequences. I just don't intend the consequences, but I got hacked, right? So this problem of preventing our brains to be hacked is here now, and we do not need to wait until Elon succeeds or doesn't succeed with his brain implants. And this problem of our brains to keep them away from hacking is very topical today.
Interesting. So how do you find, this is, as I look at your background and the balance of all the academic work you do, all the business centric work you do, obviously you got the Avast job is full time. And I think you mentioned you're at least a child, maybe more than one wife. How do you manage your time? Because you seem like a person who have to work 100 hours a week to get through all the things you have on your plate. Do you have any good life hacks that you use to kind of manage your personal time and we'll call it your professional time, which includes your academic time? How do you manage all that? You've got a lot going on.
So the way how I manage is through long distance running.
Oh,
because long distance running kind of makes me to be disconnected, to kind of run a long time without the phone and be only with my thoughts. This is actually important. I recommend everybody to read books on Kindle or in paper and to run, because this kind of gives you with a time to think that is different to the time that the internet wants us. The internet wants me to kind of provide high frequency of attentions that are 1 second lasting. This is how I'm hacked, right? And to be able to be safe from this hacking, we just gonna need to train our resilience in this high frequency short span attention economy. And to me, reading a book and doing a long run, 20 miles run, that's an opportunity how to build a resilience against stress, against lack of time. Because once you devote time in this particular matter, in this particular way, you need to get something out of this, right? You need to either learn by reading a book, or you need to kind of really sort out your thoughts while doing a 20 miles run. So that's what helps me. It actually helps me a big time.
Wow. So on the running side, I call it a competitive, even if it's a non-professional competitive runner. Are you a marathon person?
Yeah. I'm a marathon person.
Yeah, I have the same background, so I've been fascinated by it. I always wanted to get over to Europe and run the London Marathon and the Berlin Marathon. I always heard those were kind of like destination runs. Do you guys have something similar in Prague? Have you run those runs?
Yeah. Prague Marathon is beautiful. It's actually part of this league together with London Marathon. It's actually one of the most it used to be before pandemic as one of the most go-to marathons in Europe. Very beautiful alongside the river, quite flatty, pretty fast. Kind of good results from the racers when they come over. So the Prague Marathon is great. I'm actually, I've got my mountain house. I spent kind of all the pandemics in the mountains, and there were no races. So I kind of turned myself more from like a marathon runner in cities to like a long distance runner in the mountains. So I started to be substantially less passionate about time, but more about the altitude.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
So the amount of meters that you climb while running, that excites me. So you see that how pandemics can kind of change somebody's passion for running. There were no marathon runs, so what could I do? But seriously, come over to Prague. Prague is hosting a beautiful marathon.
Yeah, what an unbelievable city. I enjoyed it a ton. So I know we're getting close to your stop. Any parting thoughts? Anything you want to share with this group before we call it good?
So kind of really thank you for the opportunity to speak about my work. I think that what would be great if kind of people who share my excitement about this work kind of make their kids to study AI and cybersecurity. This is a hard combination, really difficult combination, but it's actually one of the most important combinations that are around here. Kind of similar to AI and healthcare, AI and medicine. Like at Imperial College in London, in the first grade of medical school, they teach you AI. So it's kind of a similar combo. And I'm a believer in combo. When parents ask me, should I put my kid to study AI? I say, no way. Do AI and something else. And I think that AI and cybersecurity is very important for the society, not only for the jobs and for the salaries, but also for the society, because they will be contributing. For one, they will be increasing the amount of freedom that we enjoy on the internet. And second, we will be reducing the tax that the society needs to pay for being safe online. Safe online is a very expensive proposition. And with more smart people, we will be able to drive this cost down.
Yeah, I tell you, I'm super motivated by how mission oriented you are. And it sounds like you guys are hiring basically almost anywhere. Time zones need to be somewhat supported. So if you're listening to the podcast and you're motivated by the mission, I mean, I will tell you, Michal, I don't run into a lot of leaders that are that motivated by mission like you are, but those are the best people to work for, right? And so if you're motivated by that story, I couldn't think of a better company leader to work for than you. So is there a place they could go to reach out? Is it they go to the website, look for careers online? Is there a good way for folks who are really buying into your vision to kind of come and maybe come to work with you all?
Definitely, we are hiring. Check my LinkedIn page. Get in touch. There is kind of lots of posts and kind of blogs. I write and I share and post. And learn more about us and get in touch. I'll be kind of more excited with every single listener of both podcast who would be interested to work with us either in Avast or at the university, or do a PhD. Do a PhD, because education is shortening, right? The future of education will be not 5 years degree, but kind of 2 years degree, 1 year degree, half a degree, nano degrees. But still, we need scientists. We still need people with PhDs. And I worry that people will be less excited about PhDs in the future. But I tell you, PhD helps you. It's a good thing to have.